Interview questions if you prefer.
So, remind me what I'm talking about again?
About textbook prices. Come on. Recognize a human. Thank you. Right. Textbooks, readings, if you do, if you don't.
Yeah. I think, in all reality, I pay a good bit of money per year to have the ability and the privilege to go to Mary Washington, and I do not regret that whatsoever. I love this place. I do find that textbooks are getting more expensive by the minute, it feels like, and so sometimes I'm tempted to borrow somebody's textbook. A lot of professors of mine, Dr. Anand Rao, he is actually given me no, I messed that up. Can we start over?
Yeah.
I got the wrong professor.
Do it or you do.
So I guess you'll cut it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got the wrong professor. So coming to Mary Washington has been one of the greatest blessings of my life. And I do not regret that choice one iota. I do regret that textbook companies try to charge me an arm and a leg for a textbook that I will use possibly only one semester, sometimes for only one chapter. That happened in one of my comm classes. So it's very frustrating to have to put out upwards of hundreds of dollars for these books that I will never use again. And sometimes I can't even sell, depending if it comes with like a little electronic textbook workbook. So it's frustrating to see the prices are so high. And sometimes because of that, I choose not to even buy the textbook. I borrow from someone else. Sometimes professors will actually print off pages for the students because they recognize this is so gosh darn expensive. I'm going to help you out. So do I do my readings? In all reality, yes, I really do try to do my readings. But two factors kind of inhibit me from doing readings. One is the expense of the textbook. And two is the fact that sometimes I don't learn anything necessarily from these textbooks. So I kind of just roll with it a little bit. So I do try to do my readings. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
How much in a semester do you pay for your textbooks?
In a semester, for my textbooks, this semester was really light because most of my classes didn't operate on a textbook. I think I had 2 classes that operated on a textbook. The ones that I did have to buy were kind of expensive. In my Principles of Management class, we had a pretty thick textbook. I got the online version to save money, but it was still about $100. And I'm never going to take that class again. But I will say I did learn a lot from that class. So I appreciated purchasing that textbook.
How many of your required textbooks do you buy, and when do you buy them?
I try to buy them even before the class starts. Sometimes I don't do that if I feel like, not really sure if I'm going to keep this class. So I do try to do them at the beginning of the semester. What was the other question? I'm sorry.
Just how much do you spend on them?
How much do I spend?
What do you buy?
I have spent $500 to $600 per semester, roughly, on textbooks. And that's that's probably the highest I would go. On average, it's probably about $300 to $400. So you're looking at roughly $1,000 a year on textbooks, which is what they told me coming out of high school. This is probably what you'll spend. I am blessed if I can find it on Amazon, or I can find a used copy, or a friend of mine says, hey, we're together all the time. I'll share the textbook with you. We'll trade it off and on. So there's ways to get around it. In the end, the textbooks are worth buying because the professor says they have value, and we come to Mary Washington to learn from professors. So I think the best way to do that is to actually buy the textbook and do the reading.
Do you consider the cost of textbooks when you register for classes?
Honestly, the classes that I've taken for my major and as electives have been so strategic and so important that I would have taken them no matter what the cost. That's just how I work. Now, there have been electives where I'm like, well, I don't really care about that. I'm taking it because it's easy and the rest of my classes are going to be so difficult for the semester. So I have wiggled once or twice on that, but most of the time I pick classes because I say, oh my goodness, I can learn from that, or I need to learn that skill for my career. as a documentarian. This is actually what I want to do. I'm working on a documentary project for the school. I've been hired for a work study. So it's been incredibly rewarding. And if I hadn't taken some of the classes that I've taken at Mary Washington, I would have no idea how to do this job. So, and that included textbooks, and that included doing readings. So shout out to professors who pick great books and who are great professors.
All right, that's a pretty glowing review. So you do your readings. How much reading do you think you should have per course?
I think that's not necessarily a black and white issue. I think that the professor, I go back to what I'd said before. We come to Mary Washington for great professors, for great class size, and for undivided attention. And the readings that they choose usually are very poignant to what they're trying to